What is up, you guys? Welcome to the live show. This is the November 1st live show, and this is the last show of 2025. We don't typically do one in December because that is a very goofy month for us. Because of the holidays, Christmas and New Year's, there's a solid 2 weeks where we're not even shipping. There's too many risks of delays and bad weather and stuff like that. So, needless to say, there's not a lot of great reason to also have a live show during December. So, the November timeframe is typically the last time that we do a show. So, welcome, guys. It has been a very busy summer and last couple of weeks. Whole bunch of crazy projects. We hosted our first event in like 6 years, and all of that kind of just snowballs into a super busy time. And that busy time is still happening because tomorrow I am hopping on a plane going off to Germany, and I'm going to be a guest speaker at the Vavarium show that's in the Netherlands. But I will be hanging around for a good solid week with the German guys, mainly the team over at Abyss. So very much looking forward to that. But yeah, it is capping off a very busy time. And the trip over to Europe is simply not a relaxing trip whatsoever. The guys over there, and this makes total sense, right? It's a business trip, so they are trying to fit as many activities in as possible. I think we are seeing like 3 or 4 different places before we even get to the trade show. Then the trade show happens, and then there's going to be like a couple more places to see after the trade show on the way back from the Netherlands to Germany. So, yeah, the entire week is going to be booked solid. So it's almost like I've got to get as much relaxing in as possible. And that means trying to do this during a show as well, during the live stream. So, yeah, it's going to be good. Can't complain too much. I mean, that is some first world problems, right? All good things. But yeah, it's been a lot, and I'm very much looking forward to slower, more chill times. When we did our event here, it's like the anti-event, and obviously just hearing what I think of like ultra crazy busy schedules. I pretty much designed my event where people could come here, especially the out of town guests, right? For people to be able to come here, not have any obligations whatsoever. There were 2 people that had speaking engagements here, one of which requested it, and the other one, okay, I requested for him to be a speaker. So one guy had like a real deal obligation. But the food was more or less taken care of. There was really no hardcore schedule to visit other places. You're basically at the really cool spot. May as well just stay. The food and everything will come to you. Stay and go as much as you like. Head back to the hotel. But yeah, I definitely wasn't looking to pack anybody's schedule with stuff. So that is different than a lot of other people's work trips. Definitely. Anyway, hope you guys are all doing well. What else has been going on? Posted my first video in a very long time recently. It was kind of an off-topic video, all talking about the sound control that we do in this building, because that is easily one of like the standout features of this particular coral farm, is that it is pretty crazy quiet. And that's been a pet project of mine for years, I guess. It's one of those challenges that I was always looking forward to because that's not something that you typically see in a loud environment like this. And it first started off in this studio, trying to get this studio space really quiet and getting like the audio dialed in really nicely. Because when this building was under construction, you really couldn't stay in this room. It's just this big rectangle, and it's so boomy and echoey. There's some really old videos where I'm standing in and talking while it's basically empty drywall up here. Not even drywall, it's just plywood walls. And there's so much echo and reflection going on. And to go from that to this, where it's essentially acoustically dead, you can't like clap and get like a you can't get a reflection from that. When we did our speakers here, we did it in this room. We were able to seat about 75 people, and yeah, you could hear a pin drop the entire time. So it's turned into something amazing. So that project started in this room and slowly creeped to the rest of the building over time. And so the rest of the building, it's never going to get like this insanely quiet, but considering like what it is, being an active coral farm, crazy quiet. Crazy quiet out there. Anyway, there's a whole video where I'm talking about that. So let's see. Hello, everybody in chat. CEO Refresh, hello. Seems pretty stressful. You know, it could very well be stressful, but I think a lot of what I've kind of built here is to not be so. It's not immediately taxing. I tried to keep workloads and everything like that manageable. So we're not like redlining all the time. So when things do get busy, it's not it's not having to go above and beyond and just completely getting yourself exhausted. It's when you have to push, it's very temporary and it's manageable. Um, and I think that leading up into this week, I I wanted to tone things down so that like things aren't just always a mad dash. There's many operations that are like other businesses where the status quo is just everybody's like running around like chickens with their head cut off. It's constant stress. It's constant chaos and disarray. That's really not what we do here. Uh, One could argue, like, could you do better? Could you make more money if you just, uh, like no breaks and just hustled everything like crazy? Sure, maybe. But these are sacrifices that I'm willing to make for some peace around here. Yeah, people stay busy enough, but it's never designed to be overwhelming, I guess. Lauren's 6267, are you going to Vavarium? Yes, I am going to Vavarium. That's a big trade show in the Netherlands, and I am going to be a speaker. And I guess that is one of the reasons why I have kind of tried to tone things down just a little bit in terms of the activity around here. Because for me to prepare a talk, I mean, look, I can just riff off the top of my head for hours. It's really not the point. But to kind of like organize a 45-minute to 1 hour talk, get all the slides in order, and to really, have something to say, that is tougher, I think. And think that because I had like, 2 months to prepare, that doesn't mean like, oh, yay, I can finish that up really quickly. It's like, no, I sit and I polish it and I polish it and I polish it. And by the time that I have to give it, it's going to be, nice and smooth. But until I get done with that presentation, it's always going to be something that's, in the back of my head. So, unfortunately, um, I'm leaving tomorrow for Germany. My talk in the Netherlands isn't until like the 8th. It's like next week. So, I'm still going to have that on my mind until it's done. Luckily, though, I requested my normal spot whenever I do these very uncommon speaking engagements. I requested first speaker, first day. And the reason for that, unsurprisingly, is so that I can get done with my professional engagements, with my responsibilities as fast as humanly possible. So, sure, I'll be, talking with folks and doing networking and whatever else, but the actual speaking engagement will be handled before anybody else. They actually had me originally scheduled to be last speaker on the first day. I'm like, nah, we can't do that. I want to be like, no, let's get this out of the way. I'll lead off, hit this, right? Anyway, that'll be something. They're going to record it. I don't know if they'll ever publish anything. Who knows? But yeah, that's what I got going on. Chase the Reefer, hello from North Carolina. What's up? Fish Fam Link, hello. Elise Main, love the sound video. Thank you. It's definitely an off-topic thing, but it's also one of those things that doesn't really get thought about a lot. Case in point, over in the UK, Paul from Advanced Aquarium Consultancy, nicest LFS in I haven't been to every LFS in the UK, but a lot of people consider his store the best in the UK. Anyway, he's been in this industry about as long as I have, 30 something years, who knows. And it's one of those things where you kind of get to an understanding of what these places are supposed to sound like. And it's supposed to be loud. It's supposed to be, some degree of aggravating. And I kind of wanted to do something completely different. And so when he visited, it was like, it completely made him rethink like his shop, because it's like, no, it doesn't have to be loud and grating and aggravating. Like, you can actually, taking the right steps, make a very quiet work environment. And the difference is palpable. I mean, I'm not comparing like his store to mine or anything like that, but it's when you walk, I mean, I'll compare it to like any, just being in this space compared to anything. It is like this decompression. I immediately get like a lower stress level being in here. It kind of just extracts it from your body, just sitting in a quiet space. So to have that be your default work environment is very cool. Work is hard and miserable enough that it doesn't have to also be grating. Philip Vess, hello. How's it going, Philip? Good to see you. Lauren says, I will be there to watch your talk. Awesome. Are you from the Netherlands? Because if you are, I'm slightly jealous. I quite enjoyed my time there visiting. I was there last year at the same time frame. I went to Vavarium last year. Yeah, it's really nice. Very cold, which I like. I've come to realize that I'm happiest when it's pretty brisk out. And I have a lot of hardcore winter gear, and that was the first time where I was like, this is legitimately cold. And when you look at I wish I could remember it's longitude or latitude, but it is basically even longitude with like up in Canada, like Labrador, Canada. So it's like north of Montreal, and Montreal is super cold. So yeah, like the Netherlands is way the heck up there north. And November in the Netherlands, legit, legit cold. Because I've got some like serious business Arcteryx polar Arctic expedition gear. Yeah, I kind of needed it. Gladiator 562, you have an awesome farm. Thank you. It's funny because I always look at these things as like room for improvement, room for improvement, room for improvement. And at this point, I think this farm, as it currently is more or less baked in. There's like a tank here or there that we're gonna redo. Half the greenhouse can be redone. Cool, great. But it's almost like you learn these things as you do them. If I were to do anything over again, there are some changes I would make even to this place. There are people that are coming to me more and more for consulting services, and I in the past I would never really welcome that sort of thing. Partly because in the states that would be like a conflict of interest with Tidal Gardens, right? That's kind of messed up. But like overseas, I've done consulting in Europe, and now I look forward to those because it's like, okay, I can, without any conflict of interest issues, I can share some of like the thoughts that I had going from the greenhouse to here and going from here to a future ambiguous project. And I'm like, guys, I have a lot of thoughts on how to do these farms now. Sorry, itchy nose. Chase the reefer. I have an LPS system, and I've noticed that my nitrates and phosphates have balanced at around 13 parts per million. I'm guessing that's nitrate and phosphate 0.13. Do you think that's too high? No, I don't. Haven't done a water change since August. I really don't think it's a big deal. Phosphates between 10 to 20, I think that's like perfect. And phosphate, I mean, on paper, 0.13 parts per million is high, quote unquote. Not meaningfully so, I don't think. You could always just do a little bit of geoflow to knock that down, but I probably wouldn't bother. Um, yeah, and especially if you haven't done a water change in a while, nothing to worry about. Nothing to worry about. I'd be much more concerned if you didn't have enough nutrient because the LPS, they tend to do a little bit better when there's always that baseline level of nitrate and phosphate. And honestly, the thing that I would worry about more when it came to LPS, it's something that I just kind of picked up on more recently, is that I'm more worried about like allelopathic interaction between them. So I'm more inclined to run carbon every now and again just to make sure that they're not doing chemical warfare with each other. Especially if you're doing like a mix of a whole bunch of them. Lauren, yes, a 2-hour drive. Nice. So randomly, I was looking at real estate in the Netherlands, and you guys have a real estate crisis. Yeah, everything that I've read about about getting a place there, it sounds rough because I would like to actually get a place in the Netherlands, and it's like, ugh. Philip, I know we've talked stands before, but how about tanks? Glass tank versus acrylic? Glass 100% of the time. Custom versus big brands. If you have the budget for custom and you have an actual design in mind for custom, custom 100% of the time. I plan to upgrade to a 7 foot. Okay. And I'm between going custom or IM versus WB. If you are already in the market for custom, it is going to be substantially better than those other two. Substantially better. Mainly because at that point, you can really lock in where you want your drains and stuff, the size of those drains and stuff. And when you're also talking like bigger tanks, now is the time to spec in armored seams. Like you can make a glass tank that is absolutely indestructible, like absolutely indestructible. And yeah, if you're already in that budget range, now's not the time to like mess around with like other people's ideas. You should execute on your own idea. And yeah, for a 7 foot aquarium, that's roughly when custom starts to make sense, kinda. Like right around like 500 gallons, I would say, is kind of that tipping point where you're going to get a lot of benefit from going custom. Let's see, Rovan Markovich. Greetings from Germany. How are the Strattons working out for you so far? I like them a lot. So we aren't very experimental, like pretty much out of the box. I think we did a blue plus-ish setting, maybe just tweaked the times and stuff like that. So we didn't really dabble a ton with the control. I know a lot of people tend to complain a lot about German controls, but I didn't find them egregiously bad for any reason. We didn't have any issue. I mean, we had it set up as fast as one could set up any light, and we tend to not change anything. And so as long as it's rock solid, I'm good. I really like the look that it gives. I like the T5 appearance of the light fixture. I like how it kind of gets into all like the different crevices and whatnot. The fixture itself is the nicest fixture I've ever seen. It's super thin. It stays relatively cool to the touch. It does not have fans, which for me is a huge deal because I'm constantly trying to lower the noise floor in my building. And if I'm able to cut out hundreds of small fans, that's going to be impactful. So I like those fixtures a lot. I did see the ATI Stratton X. The guys from ATI actually came over for our event, and they showcased it for the first time at the event. And that's a very interesting fixture. It's less expensive. It has a different pattern of LEDs, and that is something that I would like to experiment long term with. We just had it over here for a weekend, but there's a tank where we have, I think, a dozen radions over top of it, and I was like, let's try replacing these radions with the Strattons and Stratton X specifically, and we'll go from there. Like, I think that we could replace these dozen radions with like 10 of the Stratton X. And those guys at ATI were like, listen, no, you will be just fine using only 6 Stratton X. I'm like, I don't know. But then they did the light demo and they showed like the ridiculous intensity you can get at the corners of what looked like a 30 by 30 footprint. Um, so yeah, I think it could be a possibility. And it's a show tank. We'll try it out. If it doesn't work out, who cares? It's just a bunch of acros anyway. Um, but yeah, that's something I would definitely like to try. So, and by the way, replacing 12 radions with 6 of any fixture is kind of crazy. That's a huge energy savings. Uh, yeah, oh, huge. I haven't done a water change in 5 years, but I don't have any coral anymore. Just like to watch the show. Water changes help. Fish fam link. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe. Thank you so much. What custom brand do you like? Most people recommend glass cages and Planet Aquarium. Um, I haven't used glass cages before, so I can't give you any insight there. Planet Aquarium, we only have 2 of their off-the-shelf tanks. They're big and heavy. Um, we've used Reef Savvy, Ocean Life Aquariums, Miracle Aquariums, and Exotic Aquariums. I don't think Exotic Aquariums makes tanks anymore. Ocean Life Aquariums, that's probably the one that I would try again. Maybe they're all different. Um, they all have things that they do slightly better than each other. Uh, Once you're in that custom bracket, though, they're all pretty darn good. I would just make sure that you have a very solid design schematic and have everything in there that you really, really, really want. That's the most important. And overdo everything. Like if you're gonna do custom, now's the time just to load that sucker up. It's like I don't care what that tank manufacturer says. Like, oh, you don't need armored seams. Yeah, you do. Put them in there. You don't need an overflow this big. Yeah, you do. Put it in there. Just all the things. Throw it in. It doesn't have to be 3/4 inch. It can be a 1/2 inch. Don't care. 3/4 inch it is. I would consider myself a power user of custom tanks. Overbuild the heck out of them. Oh, because you still have to transport this to you, and just the tumbling of this tank in transit, you're gonna really, really, really wish that you had spent every dime you had on overbuilding that thing. When we were bringing back the tanks from Florida, uh, it was like 5 tanks. I forget exactly how many tanks it was, but we basically got into a car accident, more or less. And those tanks slammed around into each other and everything, and it was fine. It was fine because they're overbuilt. Chase, I've been struggling with low alkalinity at 6 DKH and I want 7.5, but the last couple months I've literally added 5 mLs to my daily dose and it barely moves. Um, Couple things. Alkalinity, it's gonna bob a lot, so I wouldn't slavishly try to do numbers chasing when it comes to alk. pH is probably a little bit more important, and just let alk do its thing. But um, yeah, I mean 6 is low. Like you can go much heavier on that just to do like a corrective dose. Just slowly bump it up. Hype GPT. I bought some Green Star polyps 3 times, but they never fully open. LFS says GSP want more white light. Currently at 65 blue and royal blue, but only 3% white. Any higher white, my algae doubles. I don't think they care about white light at all. What they really, 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 really care about though is flow. And if they aren't given enough flow, they will start to grow some problematic algae, and the problematic algae will stop their growth. If you can pretty much blast them with flow every now and again, like almost uh, give them like an area where they're getting direct flow from a power head, but hopefully the power head can change the flow up. You know what I mean? So give it like a some kind of like programmed function, hopefully from a power head, but give them a lot of flow. That'll help things out. Sorry, I'm clicking on some things. Got some random notifications. Anyway, yeah, flow for GSP. Most important thing. Whenever we ever had issues with GSP, it's because they weren't getting enough. Elise Main, Cherry Corals just got a glass cage for their acro tank. You can ask them. You can. A lot of people have glass cages and seem to like it. Looking to upgrade to a 150 aquarium rectangular. How many tanks would you recommend I should have in that 150? You're asking the wrong dude when it comes to tanks. I don't like tanks. I don't like them at all. If I had to give you a number, 1 maybe, or 0. Tangs are like such jerks. Such jerks. But I'm super biased. I have tons of tangs here. I don't love any of them. The staff, they do. Not me. They're jerks. VF4444. What food do you find are the cleanest to feed? That's hard for me to quantify. I don't really know. I will say that right now, the food combination that intrigues me the most is a blend of frozen food that we rinse every day before we feed, and we feed pellets on like the Eheim auto feeders. The pellet of choice that we are most interested in is Vitalis. I've seen things here and there which kind of has me interested. I've heard they're very good, but I've seen them at some very, very high-end operations, and if it is good enough for them, it's probably good enough for me. Obviously not sponsored. But yeah, it's like we got a sample of their stuff, and I saw them used in some really high-end operations, and I would like to try them out here as well. And we recently put in an order request. Lauren's 6267. What skimmer would you get for a 130 gallon? Was thinking Deltec. So Jan Nell's a Deltec friend. I have never used a Deltec protein skimmer, so I can't comment on the Deltec. However, my small skimmer of choice these days would have to be the Tunza. I really like it. The reason why I like it so much is because it kind of has like a self-leveling feature because of the way that the water exits that protein skimmer. It kind of gets to a certain level and then it cascades over. So it's not really impacted as much by the water level that's going on in the sump. The other thing I like is that the output kind of goes into like a nylon sock, and so that kind of help controls bubbles and noise, But you can also kind of like toss in some chemical media like activated carbon into there, just like in a pinch, that sort of thing. And then you know that like all the output of your skimmer goes through that chemical media before it gets to the rest of your sump. The other thing I like about it is that the skimmer head is super easily removable. It's not thumb screwed down or anything crazy. You don't even have to twist it off. It literally just lifts off as if it was just sitting there, because it was just sitting there. Yeah, so right now, my absolute choice would be that skimmer design. Um, we have a couple of other smaller skimmers, um, like the Nios and stuff like that. Not the Deltec, but the Nios, and definitely I'm hedging towards the Tunza. Gladiator. I love Tangs. Um, yeah, like I said, I don't, and they don't love each other. Achilles Tang is why I want to upgrade to a 7 footer. Go bigger than 150 if you can. If not, make sure it's at least 6 feet. Not bad advice. Achilles tanks get big, no doubt. Like the one that we have is currently in a 10 foot, 600 gallon tank. And there's arguments that it should be in something larger. How high should white light be for best acro growth and color? Um, the balance of blue and white is jumbled a little bit because it's going to depend fixture to fixture. Um, and it back when T5 and metal halide were more of a thing, it's one answer. If it's LED, it's like another answer, because back in the day with T5 and metal halide, the white actually was full spectrum. It really, how best to say this? The white light coming from T5 and metal halide has more blue in it than an equivalent wattage blue T5 or metal halide. You can look at these like these super yellow looking 6500K Iwasaki bulbs, and there's tons of activity going on in like the blue and near ultraviolet stuff going on there. But when you're talking about LED, the white LED is actually a tuned down blue LED. Like all white LEDs actually are blue, but it's using like a different phosphor in order to make it whiter. So in that sense, like the white LEDs are nerfed blue LEDs. So like the benefit of white when you're talking about LED fixtures is not so pronounced. Um, I do it kind of just by look, but maybe 20-30% tops. My aquarium doesn't use enough calcium to require a calcium reactor. Okay. I dose all for Reef. Which do you prefer, all for Reef or Calcwaster? Never used all for Reef. I use a lot of Calcwaster, and I tend to like it quite a lot. I do small water changes about every 2 weeks. Cool. Yeah, I mean, Calcwaster it's kind of a tried and true thing. Been around for ages. Not a lot of mystery there. I like it a lot, and it's dirt cheap. Literally dirt cheap. Um, as long as your evaporation is enough to require that the calcwaster input to kind of balance out your reef, it always just kind of depends whether or not calc is going to work out perfectly for you. We use it to kind of set a baseline. And I guess like the calcium reactor and calcwaster work together for us to set that baseline. But for a home aquarium, you could probably do, you could probably just start with calc and see where that levels you off. And if you have to supplement after that, it's fine. It's going to be just a little bit, hopefully. I have multiple Ghanies that are doing awesome. Great. So this is VF4444. I have one that never comes out, but it's still alive. Any suggestions? I've moved them all over my aquarium. Chances are it has a pest of some kind. That's the new rule around here. If there is a Ghani that is just not opening up well, you have to dip it. Can't assume that everything's okay, that it's mad about... No. Dip it. Get something that is very gentle. We tend to like the potassium chloride based dips like Reef Primer from Polyp Lab. Corporate sponsor of Tidal Gardens, right? But legit, that is our number one favorite dip. If you have, I don't know which country you're in, if you have access to the Nios dip, that is a plant oil based dip that is also quite promising. That is not sold in the US yet, but I have had samples from Nios, and that stuff is like gold to us. So it obviously is working on a different mechanism than potassium chloride based ones. So it's just another angle to attack these little possible creepy crawlies, right? But to again, to reiterate, if we see Ghanies that are not opening, something is on them. Dip the heck out of it. The other thing that we've kind of noticed is that some Ghanies don't really play well with others. So they have benefited from being isolated. Don't know if you have the ability to isolate, since most people just have one aquarium, but that is something else that could help. But number one thing, it's got to be dipped. Philip, do you think the tank chooses the coral, not the hobbyist? On paper, I feel like I could have everything, right? But my tank always seems to kill certain species. Yeah, there's a lot to say about that. By far, our most advanced system, arguably one of the most advanced systems on the planet, to be perfectly honest. It is about as hardcore of a technological marvel as it gets in this industry. It's really, really nice. It's about 3,000 gallons. It basically tried to kill all of our micromusa. For whatever reason, micromusa were not having it in there. And so once we relocated all of those micromusa into their own separate aquarium, which is a dinky little 60-gallon aquarium with its own little sump, protein skimmer, a little bit of biomedia, nothing that fancy, one light, all of them rebounded. So I do think that there's a lot to, corals not playing well with each other. And so in that sense, that system definitely chose to not be hospitable to micromusa lords. And the thing is, like, the parameters are roughly the same. We don't try to chase different parameters across this whole facility. We're really looking for very neutral, very middle of the road, nothing too crazy. And so I really think it comes down to like whatever creepy crawlies might be in that particular system, or it's other coral aggression, something along those lines. So you've had success though with acros, been very hardy for my system. That's great. So usually the thing with acros is when it rains, it pours in terms of problems. Uh, there's just a lot of different problems that could affect acros, and when that happens, it is just a nuisance. Like acro eating flatworms, that'll ruin your whole system at some point. Hold on, I'm gonna tap this camera over slightly. Okay, hopefully that kind of like fixes a little green screen flub that I'm seeing. Okay, anyway. Okay, so before I forget, I have to say some thank yous. I already said thank you to the corporate sponsor, Polyp Lab. So let's talk about the Patreon crowd real quick. Thanks, Alan Jackson and Lewis, Big Dog Aquaculture, Brandy Camp, Chuck Admire, Greg, Harkins Aquatics, Joey, Jordan Marty, Lisa Clow, Lacry Fine Art, Lynn Holt, Miss Mandy, Puddle Aquatics. Okay, new name. Can't pronounce this well. Raphael Ichibaki, Reef Theory, Scott Williams, Sue Hemmons, Thomas Tarrant, Thomas Wilson, Tim Garner, and Vincent Fasanello, who I met in person at my open house. On the YouTube member side, we have Renee Newman, Josh Hampton, Brew Morg, Robert Hoolan, Reef Roy, Keith Holland, Mike Washington, Jonathan Pendley, Philip Fess, Mark Baumgartner, Steven13, which is Chris Vining, Terry Kuhn, and Ohio Adventures. Okay, got them all. Got them all. Philip, I guess as a beginner, I was naive and felt, oh, you can keep acro, you can keep anything. That was far from true. Other thing is, when you're keeping acros, there's a lot of kind of acro-specific care, and some of those things might be anti-synergistic with the husbandry of other corals. A lot of that, for example, like flow and things, a lot of corals might not appreciate the kind of flow that acros would appreciate. A lot of corals might not like the lighting intensity that you would see with an SPS dominated Acroppora reef. Some nutrient issues, perhaps. There's like definitely some corals that would do a little bit better with higher nutrients, things like that. So just being successful with acros doesn't necessarily translate. Big case in point, mushrooms. Keeping acros and mushrooms together, it's super different. Super different. There was in one of these podcasts, I forget which one, and I forget which guest it was, but this person was from Australia and was talking about how, just because they do diving and they do collecting, and whenever they see a mixed reef, they kind of cringe just a little bit because they know how different those biomes are where you get one coral versus another. So for all those like smooth skin acros and things like that, and you see that in the same tank as a trichophilia, which might have been in basically some gross, muddy, silty, super high nutrient area, versus like this, like a crazy, pristine, high energy surf zone that you might find some of these acros in. Kyoki234. Are there any SPS that are as beginner friendly as LPS? Sure. Just about every SPS that is not an acro would fit into that category. Montipora, pretty easy. Stylos and Possilopora, absolutely. Pavona, like all those things, yeah. The only one that might be slightly tricky, and it's not even, it's like a bird's nest or something like that. But bird's nest, I think, comes down to lighting intensity more than anything. That's for like coloration. Obviously, you would need like pretty decent flow to penetrate into the interior of some of those branching colonies. But yeah, acros are uniquely problematic. They have the goofiest collection of pests. They have the most intolerance for chemical instability. Acros are some serious nonsense. What were you for Halloween? I was a couch potato. I did a whole lot of nothing yesterday. And you know, the thing is, like, Halloween used to be my favorite thing. Like, I used to dress up for these shows. Like, it used to be a thing. But no, lately I've been a big party pooper. One of my staff members, he likes to decorate his entire house, like 20-foot inflatable things in his front yard. Like, that's his jam. Um, Nothing. I got nothing. All I did was I just parked it on the couch, put on some YouTube videos, and just hung out with the kitty cats. Dodgers or Blue Jays? Um, I'm okay with both. Like, I'm so middle of the road on this. So, okay, first of all, I guess I'm not really much of a baseball fan. And if I had to pick a team, it'd probably be the Cleveland Guardians. But like the Dodgers, it is hard to not appreciate possibly the greatest baseball player to ever walk the earth, Shohei Ohtani. Um, Very impressive. Just like, oh, we live in this time frame where that exists, I guess. Okay. How is somebody that good at a sport is kind of crazy to see. Um, but I like the Blue Jays. Like they have one of the former Cleveland pitchers, Shane Bieber, and I tend to like Canada, so there's that. And you know, when I was more interested in Major League Baseball, which was about 30 years ago, the Blue Jays were good back then. You know, back when they had Roberto Alomar and who's that pitcher, Jimmy Key, back when they won a World Series. Anyway, that's how old I am, guys. That's how old I am. I was watching baseball the last time the Blue Jays won a World Series. But yeah, these days I typically don't watch a ton of baseball. I've watched less than 2 innings. Oh. Okay, interesting. Torch question VF4444. What do you find eats torches the most? Everything will be going fine, and then one head will be gone from my 20 plus torches that I have. It's like one head every 2 months. So this is a thing about torches that's kind of mystifying to anybody that keeps torches. You eventually just start losing heads here and there, and it's very frustrating. I think a lot of it. Okay, so there's like the big bad, and if you have the big bad, it's probably going to eat all your torches, and that is Euphyllia eating flatworms. They're about the size of your thumb. It's a flatworm. It eats torches. They're nearly impossible to get rid of. It sucks. Like when you get one of those, party is basically over for torches for your whole torch collection. So that's bad. That'd be really bad. If it's one torch at a time, now that has me worried that it's like microscopic. And there's a lot of stuff that can be going on at that level because now you're talking about like potential little tiny creepy crawlies. Now you're talking about some microcrustacean bug that's possible. And in that case, interceptor could help. And by the way, let's say dipping is a given, right? Dipping in Reef primer, dipping in Nios, dipping in a combination of the two, and being consistent with that will probably help you. The whole tank treatment stuff, like the interceptors and things like that, that will like knock down crustaceans. Interceptor is powerful, but there are definitely crustaceans that can survive still, which is nuts. Are those the cause of your torch going downhill? Maybe, maybe not. If it's a ciliate issue, because by the way, ciliates is the biggest umbrella imaginable. It's like any ciliated microbe, right? It spans multi-kingdoms of things. It is like the least specific thing. It's almost like saying it could be an animal, but it's more spread out than that. It could be a protist, it could be a bacteria, it could be any number of things. It could be, right? But sometimes you see ciliates. Sometimes ciliates are not bad. Sometimes ciliates are a problem. And when a torch goes downhill, now it becomes a problem with possibly bacteria, but it's this other thing entirely. What was I thinking? Brain. It's the thing that malaria is. The heck is malaria? Google, you suck now. What is malaria? Protozoan? No. Plasmodium. Guys. Malaria microbe? It's a protozoan. Okay. So there's some thinking that it could be like a protozoan disease in addition to like a bacterial issue. Okay. So reason why I bring that up because do you know why malaria cannot be vaccinated against? So for a vaccine to work, it means that like your immune system or whatever's immune system fights off the infection, right? And so when you kind of like teach the immune system, oh, I know what that is. I've beaten that before. Ramp up this, this antibody and whatever, knock that infection down. The problem with a protozoan is that it goes from entry to full-blown problem faster than your immune system can respond to it. It takes hold in about 45 minutes. And so it basically just bypasses like all your actual defenses because it's like, nope, we're here and you're now sick with malaria. That is possibly happening to your torches. Yeah, it is tricky when it comes to torches. I think that for us, when we start to see a torch head go downhill, if we don't dip it it's just going to continue to go downhill. So perhaps the most important thing is to be proactive. As soon as you start to see something look suspicious, start acting on it. Don't assume that, oh, it's just a time of day or whatever. Because, like I said, if it is like a protozoan or something like that, it's going to act very quickly. What do you think is the next big thing in reefing? So much has changed in the past few decades. Please look through the glass ball and tell me the future of reefing. Um, Couple of trends. One of the trends is that um, it is getting more difficult, not less, to get corals from the wild. I think that import is getting more restricted, not opening up as much. So I think you're going to see a little bit more activity with regards to real coral farming. And there, I mean, I've said this in other videos and other streams, but everything. No, I shouldn't generalize too much. But the word coral farming gets thrown around a lot, and I think that people are applying it to stuff that's not really farming very much. And I'm always leery of people describing a system as a coral farm because I think if this trend continues to be more aggressively difficult to import corals, you're going to see which places are really farming corals and which ones aren't. Because without a steady supply of corals, only the ones that were really farming sustainably are going to be around. Or they're just going to have to like pivot to something else like freshwater. But the whole coral farming thing might be more in earnest if that trend continues. That I think that doubles into another possibility is that actual long-term coral farming is really difficult, really difficult, and it gets exponentially more difficult at scale. I think that there's like the problem with torches, right? If you have a serious problem with torches on a scaled coral farm, that is going to be absolutely catastrophic for you. And to avoid and deal with those issues as they come up, which, by the way, every scale coral farm has to, like, you just run into problems. And your ability to handle those, um, I think there's going to be a lot of refinement when it comes to that sort of thing. And I think in the US, nobody really does that as well as is really necessary. We're at the stage where people are lucky just to have aquariums in a building that are growing corals. Like, that's the standard right now. I think that when real professionals get into it some way, somehow, you're going to talk about actually having like biosecure buildings and things. You're not going to have like retail shoppers just come in. Like, that ain't happening ever. You're going to see people that work at that facility wearing hazmat suits and that entire building being sprayed down with antiseptic daily, like that sort of thing. It's going to be a much more serious business operation. Like right now, I mean, even a place like this, it is a it's not a scaled up hobbyist thing, but the care actually required to do it super professionally, um, it does not exist, not in this country. I don't know if it exists in many other countries either, because it's going to be expensive. Do you think bubble corals and frog spawn are more hardy than torches? Absolutely, they are. Any tricks for getting acanthos to grow? They kind of don't. They're kind of super old. Like when you get an acanthophilia, that's like 10 to 20 years old. Like one of the slowest growing LPS. Yeah, follow up. What's my future 10-year plan? I'm sure you'd like to retire eventually. I don't know. I really don't know. Um, I kind of joke that I've been retired for a very long time because I've been trying to build this place to be very easy to manage and operate, and I've made a lot of sacrifices money wise to pursue a very cushy thing here, right? Like I could have made way more money just bringing in tons and tons and tons of coral and just like flipping and flipping and flipping and flipping. And as a business person, maybe I should have. Okay, maybe I should have. But no, there was a hard commit to long-term sustainable aquaculture from the very beginning of this company 20 something years ago. And over time, I think that a lot of the investment that we made to this whole operation is around the creature comforts of working here. So, with that in mind, uh, I was thinking if I was like independently wealthy, let's say, for example, I had 8-figure money all of a sudden in my bank account, what would I do? I would probably want to start a scale aquaculture facility for funsies, you know, and like make it'd be great if like it made enough money to pay the bills, do a little bit of expansion and all that. But I think that having that work, it's like it's that work life balance thing, where right now everybody is struggling with the life part of that. Um, I think that it's kind of important to also have the work part of that too. Like to have a reason to kind of get up in the morning and want to be building something or being productive. Uh, so like my work life balance first world problem is in the other direction where it's like I have a pretty nice life, and the work part of it keeps me from being um, a complete lethargic couch potato 24/7. So that's kind of why I joke that I've kind of been retired for a while. Now, one day, am I just going to get completely sick of all this? Possibly, but I've done a whole lot up to this point to try to make this whole thing not suck quite so bad. Um, and to a large degree, I think that's trickled down to the people that work here too. It's always going to be a job. It's always going to be work. It's never going to be like, oh, it's such a vacation to go to work. It's not. I mean, it's work. But the pace of work here, the fact that nobody gets a text message from me off work hours, pretty much, that's a big deal. Um, there's like a hard separation between work and their life. So when they're not here, there's no such thing as an emergency. Like you will never be contacted. I don't care if there is water on the floor from a leaking tank. That is not any of their problems. That sounds like it's a my problem sort of thing. So yeah, I mean it's kind of designed to be that way. And that takes a lot of effort on the front end. That just doesn't happen. Tiagos 7363. I'm from Brazil, and here marine aquariums are very expensive. They're expensive here in the US. I'm passionate about aquariums. I have a 1,000-liter marine tank, but I don't have access to many of the corals and fish I'd like to have. Um, you just gotta appreciate the ones that you do have. Like, uh, I don't know. I'm coming from the perspective of I feel like I've seen it all, and I've been doing this for so long that I tend to not get excited about the livestock aspect as much as others. Um, yeah, it's a curious perspective to have. It's like the least hobbyist thing ever, but there isn't a fish on Earth that I'm like, oh, I wish I had one of those. Does not exist. I could not possibly care less about fish. Like I see fish, and especially an expensive fish, I see that as a problem. Like, okay, first of all, fish do dumb stuff all the time. They jump out of tanks. They suddenly have a heart attack and just drop dead. And like the guys out there that are spending like five figures on a fish, God bless you. Mainly because like I think that if we're taking fish, it is good that if that fish dies, that it hurts you. I think for a long time, this hobby has kind of like skated on completely irresponsible treatment of animals. So I am all for shockingly priced fish. People need to try harder in general with fish. And I'm super okay with the fact that damsels cost $20. I don't care. If you want a fish, yeah, that's what it should be. None, no more of this. Oh, this fish made me unhappy. I'm gonna like catch it and flush it down the toilet. Those days are over. But no, but back to your point. There are to really do this right as an industry. There should be some actual rules that get adhered to. And so I know that there are some corals that show up in some places that I know are illegal. Gotta cut that out. So the fact that you don't have access to stuff, that actually makes me, um, I find that encouraging that Brazil is doing that because that sounds like they're following the rules. What a shocking idea, following the laws. Uncle Charlie 2.0. What is good to put on the rock under Monty caps? Encrusting Monty? No. Underneath a Monty cap is basically going to be no light. They're really good at just blocking everything out. So the stuff that's going to do well down there is going to have to be something that just simply doesn't require hardly any light. So what would fit into that category? Maybe certain blastomusa, maybe non-photosynthetic, like a tubastria, like a sun coral, but that is going to be trending more towards a challenging coral. Uh, what else could do well in the shade? Because it's not just shade for the sake of shade. It is aggressively dark. Perhaps nothing. There's a lot to be said for just not having anything underneath. You know, I'm more towards the nothing or something really interesting, like a tubastria that you're actually able to feed consistently, which is going to be tough. Cyphastria, yeah, that's a decent suggestion. Maybe some mushrooms, maybe, but actually a lot more of the mushrooms, they're not going to really have a great aesthetic when they just don't get enough light. Cyphastria could probably do okay. Um, yeah. Having said that, like I have been recommending people to keep Cyphastria in low light. for a long time. The reality with Cyphastria, though, is that they can be acclimatized to a wide range of lighting intensities. There have been some tanks I've seen that have them in very, very, very bright areas. It probably took a little while and a little bit of time for them to get situated that way, but they're fine. They do, again, because of that range of tolerated intensities, they could do well in the shade. So I guess in my older videos about Cyphastria, it might have been a little bit premature for me to just say, low light all the things. You can keep Cyphastria in brighter light. Keep all your Aptasia under there. You know what's going to be funny? Speaking of the crystal ball here. So as ubiquitous as Aptasia are, because let's face it, they're in the majority of tanks, right? I don't even think that's a hot take. I think the majority of tanks out there have Aptasia. I think it's becoming very illuminating to see that Aptasia really is not a big deal. It's like the thing that I think beginners freak out about. And I think they'd be horrified to realize what real problem pests are. Aptasia are like a minor nuisance that has like a dozen different effective treatments, but it is a problem that you're going to have to manage. My hot take, though, is that there's going to be a time period, and I think that we're living in it, where Bergia nudibranchs are expensive and very profitable, and there is a dearth of Aptasia that is required to grow these things commercially. We've been trying for some time on and off with our little Bergia farming experiments, and how it always seems to end is you run out of Aptasia. Now, having said that, our Aptasia farm is productive, which sounds crazy that yes, we have an Aptasia farm here. And now I think that I have a methodology in place where I can now grow Bergia nudibranchs without the worry of running out of Aptasia. Because we have Aptasia, in and around some tanks here and there, right? But it's clearly not a big deal here, right? You'd have to go on a serious like Easter egg hunt to try to like find Aptasia here. They exist, make no mistake, but our problem would definitely be more along the lines of how do we culture Aptasia faster to grow the nudibranchs? And you would think, though, well, why don't you just release the nudibranchs into your systems? And like we can, and we do. But what tends to happen is they just become snacks for our fish, namely the wrasses and the damsels. So, I mean, if we want to like feed them like $35 potato chips one at a time, that'll do it. No proof, but I think my peppermint shrimp ate my Bergia. Possible. A lot of things. See, this is what's so annoying. A lot of things will eat Bergia nudibranchs. A lot of things. And there are like legit terrifying nudibranchs out there that I would love for all these things to eat. Like Montipora eating nudibranchs. Those have ruined my day forever, right? They suck to deal with. And yeah, do peppermints help with those? Yes. Do wrasses and damsels help with that? Maybe yes. They still pop up every now and again. It sucks. But you put in that Bergia, they will be gonzo. They will be completely eliminated from your system, make no mistake. Yeah, thanks. You ate like the one that's doing a good job that people would happily pay a lot of money for. Elise Main. I got a tuxedo urchin recently and named him Than for obvious reasons. Wondering if you've heard this before. So, okay, it's kind of like a derivative joke. But I am in the process of trying to culture tuxedo urchins. And the obvious tie-in is it is so on brand for Tidal Gardens to be A, doing aquaculture, and B, doing tuxedo urchins. It has to work, right? I have to be successful at this. It's my new calling. I have to be able to grow tuxedo urchins here. Like right now, we're at the stage where we're so to actually grow tuxedo urchins, it's not super easy. There's a lot of steps to it. So right now we are culturing the phytoplankton necessary to feed the larvae when they're in their swimmy planktonic phase. So they require a phytoplankton called T. isochrysis, and that is a slightly more challenging phytoplankton to grow because it differs from other types of phyto in that it's ciliated, so it can swim, and I think its waste products are more um, are like messier, and I also think that their tolerated range for both temperature and light is narrower than a lot of other phyto. But beginner's luck so far, knock on wood, wherever it might be, um, it's going well. Once I get back from Europe, I'm going to then start to like assemble the actual urchin part of that whole thing. So hopefully, at some point, we will have Tidal Gardens farm raised tuxedo urchins. uh, Reuven Markovic. Yes, all shrimp takes Bergia snacks if they can, and other food is sparse, also cleaner shrimp. Yeah, so yeah, I love cleaner shrimp. No doubt they would probably snack on Bergias. Um, it's one of those things that I wish I could keep those shrimp because when we start to run interceptor, they kind of die. Frontier Wildlife Solution 4940. Than, have you used the new AI Hydra Edge on any of your systems? No, I have not. Haven't found much feedback from any professionals that have been using them since their release. No, I'll be perfectly honest. Hydra or AI has been one of those lighting fixtures that we used to use literally like 20 years ago, and we just haven't gone back to them. Um, yeah, it's just haven't, which is kind of crazy to think about because we've used so many other fixtures. I think the only thing that we use any AI product on is like one of them is on a light for our saw cutting station. I think that's it. Philip Fest 6-7. Why do you know what that is? Why do you know what that? Because I know you're not like 12. Hillbilly Reefer 8996. The natural lights are supposed to be the next level of light for coral spawning due to natural light and lunar cycles. Are we talking about Orphic Natura icons? Um, so light and lunar cycles, super important. We've gotten a lot of corals spawning once we activated the lunar feature on our Ecotech Radeon Gen 5s. We have a lot of Gen 4s, and unfortunately, it does not have that programming. And, guys, that is the one downside that I wish ATI did. Like ATI does not have a built-in moonlight fixture or moonlight thing in their fixture. And I told anybody at ATI all the way to the ownership multiple times at this point. And if I see them tomorrow or the next day, whenever I'm at Vivarium, I will tell them again. It's like, guys, this is it. I don't care if you have to make another light that is just a moonlight. Do it. Trust that this is going to be a feature that people will shop for. Okay? It's serious business. People want to try to start spawning stuff. It needs the lunar. It needs it. And I showed them in my tanks here at this facility. It's like, look at these rocks. Okay? They are filled with tiny torches and hammers. We didn't put a single torch or hammer there. All of that came from spawning. Technically brooding, for all you bio nerds out there, technically all of like the fertilization stuff happens internal to Euphilia and Fimbriophilia. Most. And once that stuff gets fertilized, the larvae at that point are fully formed and can swim around and find a spot to grow. And we have like a few tanks now in that most advanced system that I had mentioned earlier that tried to kill off all of our micromusa, that hundreds of hammers and torches at this point. One of those torches is like a holy grail type New York Knicks-ish. I can't tell exactly because it started off just all purple and now it's developing the oranges and yellows and stuff like that. So yeah, like really cool corals are spawning like crazy in those systems. And it all started because we activated a feature for moonlight. So all the ATI guys out there, please somehow incorporate that into the Stratton lineup. If you can't do it in the fixture with software, sell another light. Or somebody sell a straight up programmed moonlight. Business venture for somebody. Let's see. I had an Aptasia problem. Added 3 Bergia to my sump. Exploded. Had so many Bergia couldn't count. That's what happens. Aptasia gone. Bergia died off. Unfortunate, but yes. Once the Bergias go from like the brownish to white, they're starving. Be a bro. Sell them or give them away, right? Uncle Charlie, have you looked into PNS, purple non-sulfur bacteria, as coral food? Looked into it. We never really tried it. We did put it into our systems before. It smells really bad, like day-ruiningly bad. It's like your protein skimmer, like that. Supposedly very good. Supposedly very good. We would need so much of it, and that smell is a deal killer. It's bad. Jesse, Tidal Gardens is the GOAT. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, the Orphic Natura. I'm thinking about changing from my Radeon G4 Pros. The Lunar is supposed to go to almost 0 par. Ability to do complete local sun and lunar schedule. That's cool. Yeah, I appreciate that. The TSA baby grill was spawned in their system. Nice. Yeah, and so that's kind of like that's the hack, right? It is the proper lighting, and it is the corals that do brooding. Because I could be like, hey, I'm such a good coral aquaculturist that I'm growing. I've got corals spawning, right? The ones that brood are orders of magnitude easier than the ones that do broadcast spawning. So the guys out there that are doing the acros, the guys out there that are doing ganies, you're 10 times better. Not even 10. 100 times better at this than what I'm doing here because I'm not really doing anything, right? I turned on something on an app and it happened. Uh, for those that don't know, when you're actually spawning acros, when you're actually spawning ganies, it's a different process entirely. Like the Jamie Craigs of the world, Rich Ross, the labor intensiveness of trying to collect gametes on a specific day or night, training these corals to do it in the day, not the night. That's a whole thing. All the different things about just getting enough coral nutrition. Like a lot of places struggle just to keep these damn corals alive. And these guys are like, oh, no, no, no. Not only do we have to keep it alive, we have to feed them up and then stress the heck out of them with tons and tons and tons of like light and heat and all this stuff to make them want to spawn. And you do it on a specific day, time it all up, and then when it happens, you have to be there to scoop up all the gametes, and then you have to fertilize the gametes, and then then tumble them and make them actually then affix down onto a substrate. The choice of substrate matters, and believe it or not, supposedly what is also directive, and this is crazy how we come full circle in these conversations, but one of the factors in how sexually reproduced coral larvae, how they decide to land on a substrate is what sound it is hearing. So a lot of times you don't get good settlement because the sound of your aquarium sounds like a noisy pump. It does not sound like a reef. So there might be something to my craziness of trying to reduce all of that system noise and then perhaps introduce what a natural reef sounds like. And for all you folks that have never been diving before, never actually been on a live coral reef, a natural coral reef is incredibly, incredibly loud. Loud like Rice Krispies in your brain loud. And that it's a very specific sound that a reef makes. And when you swim away from the reef, that sound stops. So the latest research around that is that the sound is directive to coral larvae. Very cool stuff. And I don't have to deal with any of that with my little spawning outfit. But like the guys that are doing it at that high level are taking in all these different variables. So I think it's super challenging, but they're getting much better at it. Um, Gladiator, being a hobbyist in freshwater and saltwater aquariums, do you think it'd be good to start doing maintenance services to start a business in California? I have no idea. I've never done a maintenance business ever. Um, I'm probably very poorly suited to do a maintenance thing, but clearly people can make money doing it. I mean, the way that I kind of look at it, outside looking in, I think that a lot of people might kind of glamorize it to themselves as to what this might be. Like, oh, I get paid to kind of do my hobby, and I get to like be creative and build these like gorgeous systems on somebody else's dollar to set something like that up, and I also make money. Technically true, but I think what it really is more like is that you're just like the lawn guy, and you might just run into like very objectionable personalities because it's like they don't think that you're some like, you know, interior designer artist. You're just the guy that cuts the grass. And you might just get disillusioned with that. Um, it takes like a certain type of person to do that business effectively long term, I think. And also, like, there's probably elements of the business where if you start to take on staff, you are training your competition, and there's a lot of poaching of accounts and this and that, and dealing with people that don't listen and they do something really dumb. There's all kinds of liability as to, like, oh, something exploded in the aquarium and now you've ruined some rich guy's floor. That's probably not great. Stuff like that. So I don't know. That would not appeal to me. But like I said, sometimes I come across a company and they're like, and I ask, how many active accounts do you have? And they're like, we have 5,000 active accounts. I'm like, that's a lot of money. That sounds like I could get over a lot of lawn mowing contracts if I had 5,000 of them. Because at that point, like, you're just one of 5,000 rich guys that I don't care about. Sure, I'll do a water change. Or somebody will. Philip Fess, haha, I'm 34. I've got 10-year-old nephews. Also, my wife is a speech therapist in the school system. On the contrary, why do you know? I know because I am chronically online. And so my influence is trend younger. And that sounds ultra creepy, I know. But it's true. I know about this stuff because I watch some dumbass media. Okay. If you don't have a skimmer, would adding an air stone to a filter roller help pull more stuff out? Interesting you say that. Probably. I think that at a trade show one time, I saw what you were basically describing, but it was a standalone unit that did that. It's basically a protein skimmer that has like this integrated filter roller, and instead of a collection cup, it just ran this filter roller. Yeah, very interesting. Now I have to say, you're gonna like blow through your filter roll. Make no mistake, right? So, is that good? I don't know. But will it work? Probably, yeah. Fish Venture, Reef Beats. I don't get it. Did I miss something? I don't know. Anthony Cross. My bubble tip anemone and plate coral are not doing well. I introduced amino acids into feeding, bought a new light, and supplemented phytoplankton. It's been 2 weeks. I don't see results. What's going on? Bubble tip and plate are not doing well. So I wouldn't have gone into like the feeding thing first. I would have gone into the water changes and test to see if you don't have high nutrients and something like that, chemical going on. Once you start into the amino acids and supplementing phytoplankton, that could further increase your nutrients if that was a problem. So start with the basics. Do a water change, test your water, see if there isn't something going on there. After that, I would, and by the way, when I say test your water, like that's like for the macro stuff, right? Calcium, alkalinity, magnesium, salinity, right? But then after that, and you're still not seeing anything, maybe it's time to send out an ICP. See if there's actually like a pollutant. You'd be shocked at how often something ridiculously toxic falls into your tank. We actually had this magnet thing. It was like a little magnet probe holder. It's not even in the water. It's like 2 inches off the water, just holding some drip lines into our sump. It was like a solid block of rust that had broken through. And who knows how long that was like being toxic, right? These things happen. So check that sort of stuff. Then, if you still don't know what's going on, throw some activated carbon on there just in case, because you can blind do activated carbon. It'll solve a lot of problems. After that, maybe there's a pest issue. Who knows? Dipping like bubble tips and stuff like that, that's not really a thing. A lot of times it's probably not even not recommended because it's probably not a pest problem for an anemone. Plate coral, still unlikely, but I'm thinking pest. Um, do you have any fish that could be bothering this? Whenever I ask, people always say no. Then they mention that, yeah, I've got like a flame angel, but he doesn't pick on anything. It's the flame angel. So be honest with yourself about what fish you have. And just because it is a model citizen, I guarantee it is just better at hiding its behavior than you are at catching it. If it's a dwarf angel, that's your problem. That sort of thing. Um, yeah, but I would go through those steps before like feeding is like the last tier of possible problems, I would say. Everything should be fine without feeding. Philip, are you excited to propagate more of the insanity plate? That plate is pretty much a guaranteed return on investment, a quick and guaranteed sell. You know what's weird? We almost lost it, and I think it might have had to do with some of that chemical weirdness that happened, because like one day all of them like turned gray and really wanted to die, and we had to go really hard on some of our chemical filtration because we couldn't pin down what the problem was, and we split it out amongst like a number of different tanks and everything like that. Luckily, they all did survive. One of them is doing great. One of them, I think we actually did sell to a local. Um, and the other one is healthy, but it's starting to having to regain its color. But we had a major setback there. I was worried. Ah, Reef Beats is Reef Noise soundtrack. Gotcha, gotcha. Forgot I was talking about that. Only clownfish and an engineer goby. A clownfish hosting in an anemone could stress an anemone out. Just saying. An engineer goby, if it's dusting the plate coral, that could be a thing. What is your favorite wrasse and why? I like Melanaris and I like Timorasses. They're both from the same genus. I think they're Helioceras. I don't know if I just said that right. I don't know if I'm misremembering what the spelling even is. But they are hardy. They don't jump very much. They do a very good job on pests. Uncle Charlie 2.0. Do copperbands pick at large Durasa clams or rock flower anemones? Good question. I would worry about clams and rock flowers. Not that I remember. It's possible. It's possible. Like copper bands can pick at certain anemones like that, um, because it is so alien. Like it's not something that's ever found really where they're from, and I know, for example, that they'll pick and eat strawberry pseudocoronactuses. Okay, sure, that was random, but they'll do it. You know, sometimes they'll pick at like micromucilords and things of that sort. So it's possible. Like right now, some of our nicest Homophilia bowerbanki are struggling, and I think part of the reason might have been a hungry copper band. It's entirely possible. Okay. Just so you know, this show for the last of the year is a little bit longer than our typical show. I think that we're going to be going all the way up to like 250 something. So the entire length of the show is a little over 2 hours. So thank you all for coming and hanging out, I have to say. And I don't know if this is also like a first world thing, but there is a new feature apparently in Macintosh, Mac OS. I have two different computers running, okay? One of them is my laptop here that's doing all my broadcast software stuff. And on this screen, it's actually my iMac, my desktop, and it's not like an additional monitor. It's two separate computers running, okay? My mouse can travel seamlessly between these two computers. One mouse is doing this. That's pretty cool, you guys. Like I understand it obviously if it's like, oh, it's an additional monitor, right? That's plugged into like the laptop. It's a different computer, completely doing its own thing. So I've got like my actual browser, my chat and stuff like that, and my text messaging and all that stuff on this machine. And this machine kind of dedicated just to the actual broadcast software itself, the Wirecast. Yeah, I'm loving that. That's pretty sweet. Good job, Apple. I hate you for other reasons, but you did good there. How the heck? Coolest mouse ever. It ain't the mouse. This is like a Logitech. Like this operating system does not care about this random Logitech. Uncle Charlie 2.0. Would adding live rotifers in the refugium be good to feed the corals and copepods? To some degree, I think. It's one of those things that might have very little effect for all intents and purposes. Like this right this second, end of 2025. Okay. Refugiums are kind of poo-pooed upon by the serious business professional aquarists. Like if you ever went to a design firm and like I'm not going to name names only because I don't want to put words in their mouth, even though I've literally heard it coming out of their mouth. But let's say I'm the design firm, guys. Somebody's like hiring me for big dollar consulting projects, and they're like, "All right, we want to do like a refugium to feed, like passively feed the corals and stuff like that." I'm like, "Listen, don't do that. Don't do that." So to directly address your question, it's because for it to actually work the way that you want it to work, it has to be very large. It has to be significantly larger than your actual aquarium that you're looking to feed. It's not one of these little things where you bolt on a little tiny tank that has 10% of the volume of your overall system and that's going to do anything. The only thing that is going to do is proliferate every problematic pest and nuisance critter forever in your system. That is what that will accomplish. An actual refugium that is productive enough to passively feed your corals and stuff, you're basically bolting on a wetland, like mangrove marsh thing. It's going to be gigantic. And in theory, would that activity work? Yeah, probably. It's so you feed phytoplankton into it. Some corals can accept phytoplankton directly, but most of the nutritional uptake that most corals, some can directly, like I said, take in phyto, but most of it is actually more towards the zooplankton. And when you've now got a lot of like healthy zooplankton populations going, and then that gets into like the higher orders of of other creepy crawlies. That then flushing in regularly insignificant volumes to your display, sure. It's asking a lot. It's asking a lot, though. You'd be better off just feeding zooplankton directly into the mouth of a coral. It's less effort. You don't have to worry about issues of your flatworms persisting in a refugium forever, that kind of thing. Your problematic turf algae that you simply can't get rid of, you'll never get rid of because you have a refugium, that sort of thing. Elise Main. I spied an SSL audio interface in one of your videos. Great choice. Best value and converters for that size device. I agree. Thank you. I actually have three of them. I have an SSL2 Plus. I have an SSL2, and that sits in my house just in case I want to record something at my house, which never seems to happen. And then I've got whatever the SSL that has like the 4 mic inputs is. I got one of those for my podcast set, just in case if I ever needed to have 4 podcast guests, right? Or 3 guests and myself. Having said that, I know that like hardcore recording people are like, that's kind of entry level nonsense. But for what I do, it is like ultra professional. Like if you're like an online, podcast, or just like, just recording some video with an SM7B, like an SSL interface is like, that's as good as you will ever need, right? But I know that like a serious recording studio would never, right? Audio nerd stuff. David E5115 fan, have you ever considered getting into the clam business? Kinda. It's super different. I am friends with John at Clam Mania. He was actually recently here for our open house event. Very nice to see him. He does the clam thing at a very high level. It's just so different. Like you really do have to have systems substantially different from mine. Like the way that he keeps his clams, no snails, absolutely not, because mollusk to mollusk pathogens, mollusk to mollusk parasites like pyramid snails, no good. So no other mollusks, no fish. Like I don't think he keep. What is that true? Hold on. No, he has fish. He has tangs because that is how he does his herbivore activity. Is that he has to rely on like some fish to do that. But no, he's doing like really a lot with clams. For us, we would be lucky to have a tank that we could just bring them in and sell them out of, and we kind of don't even have that. I haven't had a clam in here in 10 years plus. That's how poorly clams have gone here. I have asked him at one time about wholesaling clams, and he may or may not have warmed up to that by now, but he was not interested for a very long time. I was asking him literally, send me your absolute worst dog water quality clams, and I'll just sell them. And he's like, well, I mean, even the dog water clams, it took all the same effort because he's like, doing stuff. And I'm like, well, it's easy to not do clams. So I haven't. It's like Blue Jays or Dodgers. We talked about this earlier. I like both teams for different reasons. Blue Jays were cool when they were good, like 30 something years ago. Dodgers, clearly, I have to look at Shohei Ohtani and just be completely amazed. Like, that's the best baseball player ever, right? Like, that's him, right? I did see a funny meme on the internet just the other day. Do you guys know that scene in Training Day where Ethan Hawke's character is bringing that blender into that house party full of like Mexican dudes? If you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about, right? It's they said that is a Blue Jays fan walking into Dodger Stadium. I thought that's funny. Okay, so refugium is to help the pod population for dragonets. Um, to be perfectly honest, all you need to do for that, you just put in like a few pod hotels here and there, and it'll be great. By the way, I have nuked our systems with like freak out levels of interceptor and killed every crustacean in there, and our dragonets did not starve. Just saying. I killed every copepod and amphipod in that system, no doubt. And those things still found stuff to pick on. Okay. User. I think UV sterilizer are a must have. Since the ocean is so big, there's not that many parasite density, but in an aquarium it's not. I don't know if it's necessary, but I like them. I use them. Philip, are you celebrity enough to be invited to Taylor Swift's wedding? Nah. But if you want to play like if you would like to play like how many degrees are you away from Taylor Swift? Like the Kevin Bacon game, right? Like how many jumps would it take you to get to Taylor Swift? For me, it's one jump. Just saying. I know somebody that knows Taylor, that Taylor has written a handwritten thank you letter to. So there's that. And dressed for a wedding? Oh God. Guys, I own 4 tuxedos. Legit tuxedos, not the ones that you rent, like baller, hardest core, awesome tuxedos. I'm always wedding ready. What about a nano tank? Okay, so no context. I will assume you're talking about UV sterilizers for a nano tank. The only worry that I have there is too much heat transmission. Fish Ventura took down my rolling dragon's breath fuge. Looked sweet, did squat. Can't you sell dragon's breath for a lot of money? We haven't been able to do dragon's breath very well here. Also, the people that buy algae are like insane about how clean they want their algae. Guys, it's algae. It's gonna be dirty. Like all this, oh, it's clean macroalgae. I don't think that's a thing, guys. I don't think that's a thing. Stop trying to make it a thing. Nature in nano. Oh, don't say that. I'm just about to start a refugium. I would try to talk anybody out of a refugium. It is so unnecessary for what you're really trying to accomplish. I think I have too many fish in a 300G. Yeah, maybe. That sounds like if you think you have too many fish, you have too many fish. Okay. Hey, Than, still waiting on that TG dive trip. I might have aged out of diving, guys. I don't know. I don't know. I'm at that level where I'm like, should I save up and buy an elevator? I think I could use an elevator. I'm tired of going up and down stairs. Like my poor parents that are like, in their 80s, like they could definitely use an elevator, but I'm like looking around here, I'm like, maybe I could use an elevator. So like a dive trip. I'm so not adventurous these days. User, the tiny white spirobid worms attacking my clam. Eh, Worms doing worm things, I guess. Uh, Lava Cyst. Hello, Than. See you soon at Vivarium. I will be. Hopefully, I'll be there. Hopefully. There's all kinds of like plane delays and stuff like that going on. Dude, if I get a plane delay, this flight. Oh, by the way, I'm going to do a little bit of a. uh, Some people are going to catch some strays, so sorry about that. But you know, I was talking earlier in the stream about like how imported corals might be getting like less easy to do. Like there's going to be more restrictions in the future, not less, that sort of thing. Um, and I was talking about how like real coral farms could survive that, but there's not a lot of real coral farms out there. I want to throw it out there that this 1 week trip to Vivarium, I'm going to spend roughly, it is in the ballpark. Okay, so I'm going to say like half. Let's say half. Okay, it will be equivalent to half the amount of money spent all year by Tidal Gardens on corals. Okay, it took um it took 10 months for us to break 5-figure spend. So for a long time, it was 4 figures of how much money we actually spent buying corals. If you needed a frame of reference, most places our size spend $10,000 to $30,000 a week buying stuff. We spent much less than that, and we are in November now. And literally, my travel to Germany is at well into like 6 to 7 months of our coral spend. Throwing that out there, guys. Real coral farming, though, is difficult. Just watched Training Day a week ago, so that scene should be fresh in your mind. Than, thank you for your answer on clams. A buddy of mine and I are dividing a liveaboard in Raja Ampat in early 2027. Very cool. Best of the coral triangle on the planet. Care to join? Maybe. Maybe. But it's like, geez, I'm getting old. I'm getting real old. Just saying. But that sounds like an amazing time. It legit sounds amazing. Sleepy Bear 3129. Off topic, do you like beekeeping? I love the idea of beekeeping. I've thrown around the idea of having bees here and everything like that. The reality is I think another project here involving livestock is a no-go. I would love to keep ducks. I would love to keep bats. I would love to keep bees. I would love to keep capybaras, okay? And maybe even a donkey. Realistically, I don't have like the bandwidth, mental or money to do any of this. It is going to be horribly neglected. So, just being responsible, I shouldn't put up a bee thing. But I think it is super cool. The best I can do though is that more and more of my backyard is basically like wildflower. So it is I would say that there's a good solid acre on this property that is like dedicated just to like pollinators. Okay, Frontier Wildlife Solutions. I know display tanks and build series aren't in the realm of your typical content, but I would love to see Than's version of a budget build tank. Yeah, that is outside of my wheelhouse. I'm like a max so I'm like a maximalist minimalist. So like I want to come up with the simplest thing done at the highest most insane level. right? So, for example, one of my, well, one of most of my systems here involve a return pump for flow, a closed loop of some kind, and maybe a power head for flow. But in order to accomplish those three things, we are doing super advanced plumbing, and all of those pumps that I just mentioned, so the return pump, one pump, the closed loop, another pump, and a power head. All three of those pumps are a biz. That's 10 grand, in addition to $1,000 in plumbing. So very different mindset. So at that point, it's like I think that it would be I would be inauthentic to do is like if guys if I suddenly did like an all-in-one tank review, I'm fake, right? you know I'm being completely fake and somebody's paying me a ton of money because that is not what I do. That is not my wheelhouse. And if I ever did something like that, I'd be like, guys, I did this for the bag, right? Not that there's anything wrong with an all-in-one, actually. There's ways to do an all-in-one, but the way that I would do an all-in-one wouldn't be cost effective. Okay, so I bought a UNS Nano Peninsula as they came to the UK. I was going to do the little refugium. Should I just do the skimmer instead? Yes, 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 protein skimmer. Yeah, easy. If I'm choosing between a refugium and a protein skimmer, 100% of the time protein skimmer. They need a stair lift and a life alert. Just saying. Do you think pulsing xenia in a sump would escape into the main tank? No, probably not. Guys, xenia is highly manageable if you would like to manage it. Just saying. Razor blades go a long way. I work with bats for a living. You want a bat house. I'll send you something. Very little to no maintenance, and the bats will gladly take up residence during the spring and summer. Yeah, so, okay. The plan that I had, which is hilarious, it won't work because it turns out that it's only for Florida. But I saw a bat house that could house like 10,000 bats or something like that. But it turns out that those particular bats are only in like the warm South, not in Ohio. So the best bat houses here are for like little brown bats. And so you just need the little tiny ones. And so I was like, but I wanted a giant bat shed that's on four, like telephone pole sized things. And it's basically like a house sitting on, four legs, 20 feet in the air, and housed the entire zip code's worth of bats in there. That would have been awesome because like I could just come out here like in the late or in like the early evening or something like that and literally not have a mosquito, period. That'd be wonderful. But unfortunately, no, that is a Florida or a Texas thing, down south. Not an Ohio thing. I'd have to have a bunch of little tiny itty bitty bat houses. Also, what would be really disgusting is apparently in the off season, when all of those bats migrate away from a giant bat house, you're really supposed to go in there with a pressure washer. And I can just imagine me in a hazmat suit and a pressure washer trying to clean the inside of a house-sized bat house and just getting drenched in bat guano as I try to pressure wash this thing. That sounds gross. I could do without that. Uncle Charlie, you could do a green water all-in-one to drip some of your hungry... Nah, I'm not doing that. Don't need to. You can just grow Fido in a real thing and just pour that into your tank. It's way better, you guys. How do clove polyps do with pest tips? Middle of the road. Can you peel them off the plug easily? Yeah, but you have to then get them back down onto something. It's way easier just to do that with the plug. So a lot of times people want to remove the plug because they don't like the aesthetics of a plug. You're better off gluing that plug onto another rock that you do like the shape and whatever of, dry, and then put that in rather than trying to like clip the plug or rip the coral off of said plug, because getting corals attached is the difficulty. So just saying. Bat condo for Mexican freetail bats. That's what I work with. You need one for big browns. Little browns are almost extinct. Oh, those big houses are awesome, but they smell terrible. Oh, okay, great. No thanks. CJ Dangles. I'll take the ant spot if he doesn't want it. I think you're more James Bond than Batman. So here's the problem. I get why people like James Bond. And James Bond has inspired many a man that wanted to start his sartorial journey, okay? I joke about 007 because, first of all, okay, he's a terrible spy. Can we agree on that? James Bond is a terrible spy. Like, everybody knows who he is. He walks into like a poker table and he is sitting there with the big bad and it's like, 007, your reputation precedes. Why are you so crappy at being a spy? Everyone knows you're a spy. They know your call sign. They know you're 007. Like, they know your social security number in MI6 or whatever. That's terrible, right? So on top of that, like was it in Dr. No? One of the early ones where he made a Rolex watch very famous. He wore a Rolex Submariner. I think it was in Dr. No. But basically he like swims underwater in like in some kind of scuba thing, like a dry suit. And then he just like takes off his dry suit because it's dry. You can actually do this. And underneath is he's in a tuxedo, ready to go to the cocktail party and be a spy. But he's wearing a Rolex Submariner, which, guys, it is a sport tool watch for diving. Okay, so when you roll into a black tie event in a tuxedo wearing what amounts to dive gear, maybe that dude's the spy that literally swam here unannounced. You might want to, like, put a bullet in that guy real quick. So anyway, that's my 007 take. So hopefully I'm better at my job than James Bond would be. However, Batman, just beating up poor people, being a billionaire, that's not cool either, though. Between the two, I guess I am James Bond. Maybe I am James Bond. All right. It's like, okay, I was thinking I could peel the clove polyp and then drop a super glue, place it like Zoe's. No, it's going to be more tricky than that, unfortunately. I mean, you could. It might work. You could. But, yeah, if it's already attached down to something, I'd go ahead and call it good and just leave it attached. Okay. Wow, we are at item number 249 already. Time has indeed flown. So I'll say my farewells here. Thank you guys so much for coming and hanging out. This again is the last live show of this year. We haven't scheduled any for next year yet. I'll get around to that eventually. But tomorrow I am heading on a jet plane. Don't know when I'll be back again. Leaving on a jet plane, I guess that's the lyric, right? Going to Germany and the Netherlands, hanging out with Alex at a biz. Going to be a speaker at Vavarium. It's going to be a good time. So if any of you guys are in the EU, want to come hang out, Vavarium is the place. Not that I need to be doing promos for them. They're going to have like 12,000 people there. They're going to be okay. It's going to be like the last Vavarium, unfortunately, but it was an awesome show when I went there last year. So I'm very much looking forward to just seeing all the sights and sounds of that, eating some of that good food. Looking forward to that as well. Yeah, I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your weekend. I'd say, have fun mowing the lawn, but I think we're past that, right? I think we're past that. Maybe we're going to get into shovel season soon. Yeah. It'll be interesting just to get out and about, but it is going to be nonstop activities and me filming and me working and seeing like a bunch of different organizations. It'll be cool. It'll be cool. So, got to do a change of pace. I've only traveled once this year so far. I went to Reef in Denver. Didn't go to another show all year. Like last year, I traveled a ton. This year, I traveled once. So, this is kind of like a pretty grand departure. That'll be good. And if you follow me on socials, you get to see how I travel lavishly. So the key to that, guys, is you just do less of it. You can afford to do it nicer if you just don't take so many trips. And that's basically what I've done. Because it's like if I'm going to be on an airplane in and out of airports for what amounts to probably like 16 hours, 18 hours. That chair had better lie flat. Just saying. Aqua H in the UK next year, please, Dan. No way you're too old for diving. Germany is a beautiful country with a lot of great food, but terrible diving. You need to travel more. I do need to travel more, but I need the travel budget, you guys. Like, if there's any the most radicalizing thing that I've ever run into is traveling business class. It's like, well, that's how to do that. Can't afford it. Instead of traveling 4 times, I'll just travel once business class. Yeah, so people are going to be seeing a lot less of me. But that's how it's done. That's how it's done. If ever you guys are just taking a super long international flight, I recommend trying it once. It will change your view of the world. I'll tell you that. It is not comparable to flying economy international, which, by the way, economy international, kind of nice. It's kind of nice. Business class is different. Wanted to head to the Netherlands, but for me, it's only a 4-hour drive. My wife asked for me for a company to design a festival with posh wine and expensive clothes. Cool. I get it. It's cool. Something happy wife, happy life or something, but who cares? Posh wine, expensive clothing. That'd be nice. Could get behind that. Flown to China twice. That's a long flight. Yeah. Yeah, like flying to Japan a few times. It's long. And I did that economy. And flying back, the girl in front of me put her chair back into my chest for 14 hours. Those days are over. Those days are over. And if I can't afford it, guys, I'm just not going to go. Like, straight up. Like, it's, yeah. Anyways, enough of that. Hope you have a happy holidays, and see you sometime next year. Take care.